Hola, Daniel Shane Haney, and we're going to talk about a couple of my covers.
What do you remember about the Big Brother cover, Daniel?
Well, this was right after I turned pro, and so I was really close with the guys at Big Brother. I lived in LA. I was in and out of the office all the time, and I had pitched. Oh, they wanted to do an interview for a pro interview, and I wanted to come back to Arkansas to shoot it. You know, because that was kind of my whole vibe. You know, through the whole thing was that I was a little redneck kid. And so I came back here to shoot that. They sent Ben out to shoot, and
Ben
Colin. And he's a good friend of mine at the time. And I had this Dukes of Hazzard board, and so I was like, dude, I pitched before I left that what if we did a cover of me jumping the creek, you know, like on the General Lee, you know? And they were like, loved it. They were super hyped. And to me, that was a good way to get all my friends on the cover of a magazine. You know, I was like, dude, we're all going to dress up as rednecks. We're going to go out. And we went all over the place trying to find
the proper creek.
A creek, right? Like a creek that was not so big that it was still feasible to do, but that you could lay down wood or, you know, just something that you could actually skate. And so it had rained, and the creek, we were skating out at Kanis, and we're like, dude, the creek here. And so we just walked the creek, and there was this place where the bank was high on one side, and there was like a sandbar on the inside of it, so that there was an even lower place to land. It was like head higher, a little above, and then where you land is water level.
Okay.
And this is actually cropped, but this is Preston Acuff. He actually rode for Dogtown.
Yeah.
He's floating in the creek on like a little little circle thing.
Yeah.
Mike is standing in the creek. You can see some of the water right there. So you don't really see that it's a creek as much here. In the video, you see it, you know. But as far as the photography, I set everything up. I actually shot for them as well. I shot while I was home. That was another thing I did. I shot an article in Arkansas. And I set the camera up. I did all the lighting. It was on a tripod. And my friend Brock Eads did the timing. So he was the guy who actually hit the shutter.
Okay.
And got the credit. He actually got, credit on a cover photo in Big Brother. So it's super cool, man, that everyone... You know, it was like a really awesome moment where...
Community effort.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Where we all came together and freaking did rad shit. And we were out there doing this thing, and we're all dressed up as rednecks. It's like, oh, dude, let's shoot the opener for the Arkansas article. Let's spray paint Arkansas into the, you know what I mean, across us in these redneck outfits. There's the little inner tube Preston was floating on.
Oh, right.
You know, and then that was the freaking opener right there. The same thing. We already had the lights set up, and you know, I just did a 2-point lighting here, and same thing. Set the camera on a tripod, and Brock shot that photo too.
Right.
Yeah.
And how in the hell did you end up on the cover of a French magazine?
Man, you'd have to ask somebody else, dude. I was out one night, and this was at the Albertsons by my house in Palms, and I was riding my motorcycle around, and I see Duffy and who else? It's like, I remember Duffy because he was like my freaking idol, you know. And I was like, holy shit! Like a lot of those dudes I knew, you know, a lot of those people I skated with, but Duffy I never saw, and so it was just like, holy shit! And so I pulled up and I started talking to the guys I knew, and I was like. And they're like, dude, you should fucking come skate. And I was like, oh shit, fuck yeah. And so my house was right down the block. I went and got my board, drove back up, and shot a couple of things. Actually, the thing that you posted, that crooked grind, was shot this same night. That's around the corner that we were skating this kink rail, and then we moved around to this Albertsons and set this up. And I actually shot a blunt slide too. And the blunt slide got used in Skateboard magazine.
Okay.
And or Skateboarder. And it was the opening spread, the contents page or whatever.
Page, yeah.
I didn't think about it again, you know, like, and I don't even know that I saw this for years after. Somebody's told me. They were like, "Oh, you got a cover in."
So who shot it that night?
Man, I'm drawing a blank on who shot that. It's O'Mealy. It was O'Mealy.
Okay.
Yeah. Then blonde hair. Yeah, it's O'Mealy. Yeah, and so maybe he told me. Maybe I was in the skateboarder offices and he told me, but it was well after. Well after. I had no idea it had been a thing, or maybe I saw it in there. I can't remember, but he probably gave me this magazine. Even that was how I found out, as I saw the shit someplace.
Mm-hmm. And you're saying you got to be a mystery guest on King of the Road.
Yeah, they called me up and were like, "Hey," really vague on what the hell was going on. Like, I didn't know that I was going back to that I was going to be a mystery guest for Foundation until I freaking got there. Riding for Foundation, they were like my first major sponsor, and I chased it. Like when I first put my sponsor me tape out, it got really good. It was received really well in LA and around, and I had several different companies sending me boards and courting me. Like, it was a weird thing. Like, people were actually like, "Hey, what can we do to get you to ride for us?" And I was like, holy shit, like, how is this happening to me? Because I was just from here, you know what I mean? I'm a little redneck kid, and all of a sudden it was like, I'm in the mix of this shit. I was like, what? And so Foundation was one of the people that were sending me boards, but they were like the hard to get chick, you know what I mean? Like, where everyone else was like New Deal and Plan B, and a couple people were like, well, dude, let's do this. And Foundation was like, look, man, you film us a video part, and we'll see, we'll put you on. And so instead of taking anything else, they were sending me boards, but they weren't like, oh, you're on the team, you're on flow. You're on flow until you can prove yourself. And I was like, I'm gonna fucking prove myself. And so I filmed this video part and got on the team. And right when I got on the team, everyone fucking quit, dude. I like pulled in as everyone was leaving. I was like, oh, dude, like, because it was right after Rolling Thunder. You know what I mean? Like,
Duty Now for the Future was the next video,
Duty Now
right?
for the Future is what we were filming. It wound up being Duty Now's Future.
Okay.
It wasn't originally going to be Duty Now for the Future, but because all the pros left and it was just us amateurs, then it was like, okay, well, this is about building from here,
So it was you, Staba, and John West were the principals?
And Josh Beagle was still there.
Yeah.
Frank Harada stayed on for a little while, but I think he already had a foot out the door, like, because it was I guess initially it was Heath and
Barrow went to Birdhouse.
Yeah, Barrow went to Birdhouse. And that was like the first, and I was like, oh, damn.
Yeah.
Because I was like hanging out with Heath and Josh, like Josh and Heath were real good friends, and I basically lived down there with Josh. Anyway, so we go on this tour. It's my first ever tour, and I'm a hard-headed kid, you know what I mean? I didn't recognize that back then, but I see it now, especially after I've owned my own business, and I can see some of the motivations behind what happened to me. But at the time, I was really fucking bitter. I broke my hand halfway through the tour, and the tour was really kind of shady. It was they had us running crazy, and I could not get to the hospital. Like, they just, there's 16 of us in that van, and everybody wants something else from it, and it just was a shit show. And so one night we were in Tampa, and I'm trying to skate this demo, and I've got a broken hand, and it was just fucking with me. And I was like, look, I just need to go get a cast on this so that when I go I don't have to think about fucking my hand up every time I fall. And so I went to the hospital after the demo, and I was just about, they had x-rayed, like, yeah, your shit's broken, we're gonna fix you. And Mark calls me, and I was like, and he's like, dude, you gotta come back to the park now. You gotta come pick us up. And I'm like, fuck, are you kidding? Like, I'm like 30 minutes away from getting a splint, at least a splint on my hand. He's like, I mean, you can do what you want to do, man, but we're about to get kicked out of the park, and we're gonna be outside, and we're all just gonna be sitting here. And I'm like, fuck. So I take the van back to spot, and when we get there, fucking Staba and somebody else take the van and go and buy weed. And so we still wound up sitting.
Yeah.
That's why the van really had to come back. It wasn't because
they needed to
because I wound up sitting out there, and so little by little, every time I tried to get my hand fixed, it was like an inconvenience. I was just the inconvenience. Like, well, and so finally get it splinted, and we're leaving Florida one morning, and at this point I'm just pissed. I'm like, dude, like, they left me at the I'm over it at this point. So I was like, you know what? Fuck this. And so I got up early. Like, I didn't party back then. I didn't smoke or drink or do any drugs. I was like super on it, you know? And so I woke up early. They were all hungover. I woke up at like 7. I found this is back when it was phone books. This was before, you know, the convenience of the cell phone. And I opened the phone book and I found an orthopedic surgeon. I called him. I took the keys out of Mark's pocket and took the van and drove myself and fucking got all my shit set up. And it was late. It was like 1 or something when I got back. They had been kicked out of the hotel. It's August in Florida. And there was like I have to admit, there was like a certain sense of satisfaction. I was like, fuck, yeah, that's how it feels, right? Like, that's how I felt getting stuck in the hospital all day and you guys just fucking around on me. Anyway, and so I think that's officially probably when I got kicked off, you know, like, but I stayed on the tour and we did our demos and we filmed. And literally as soon as I got back to LA, I got a call from Swank and he was like, he's like, left me a message to call him back. I was in the shower. I get out of the shower, call him back, and he's like, hey, I gotta let you go. And I was like, oh, cool, well, I'll call you back. He's like, no, I'm letting you go. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah. And just cut me off, he goes, I think his words, and this might be a slight paraphrase, he's like, yeah, you tried, you got far, but you didn't make it. That's the way it goes. And I was like, oh, fuck that. You can kick me off your team, but you don't tell me I didn't make it, you know? Like, you don't get that fucking say. But he tried real hard to make that the final say. Like, I had been working my ass off. I had shit in the blue line, dude, for Transworld. And they fucking edited the blue line to take me out. And I got banned. They wouldn't, Ortiz quit shooting with me. No one from Transworld would shoot with me. And like literally he tried to have me like fucking blackballed. But fortunately the guys at Thrasher, the guys at Big Brother were like fucking awesome, and I wound up getting coverage through them. Yeah. Then I wound up getting an arcade, and then once we started getting ads in Transworld, it was like, yo dude, we're paying you. You should cover our dudes. Yeah. And so then they started covering me again. And
so then moving on to King of the Road, they just surprise you that you're going to be with Foundation. How odd was that, or how was it smooth enough, or?
At that point, man, like I was out of skateboarding. You know what I mean? Like I didn't depend on it for anything, so I wasn't afraid to like be a dick. And so I showed up to the introduction. The night before, I had made a shirt that said Todd Swank is a butt monkey. And so I just was like, I'm going to use this opportunity to spend Todd's money, you know, and just fucking be a bum on tour. You know, the shit that I never did before, because when we were touring, I was the straight kid. You know what I mean? And so this time I was like, yeah, weed, fuck yeah, whoa, like, so I was partying the whole time. I was just like, fuck it, I'm going to spend all Todd's money. I got my nipples pierced on Todd's dime. When in truth, you know, like I'm earning points for the dude. So I wasn't really that mad at that point, but it was just a fun, like, I did a prank call to Todd. So a little shit like that where I could like fuck with Todd. I used that moment.
Awesome. Well, that about covers it, I think, Daniel. Thanks so much for having me over to do this.
Yeah, man. Thanks for doing it.
Yeah. And so this is from the shit book where Daniel's cover is also talked about. Fantastic.